It was a chilly morning in a small town where the rich and poor lived side by side, yet worlds apart. The streets were alive with the chatter of merchants and the rattling of carts, but in the corner of the market, a little girl named Amina stood barefoot, clutching a small basket of wilted flowers she had picked from the roadside. Her dress was torn at the hem, her hair tangled, yet her eyes carried a light that poverty could not dim. Every morning she tried to sell those flowers to earn just enough to buy bread for herself and her sick mother. That day, as she stood near the busy crossing, something caught her attention. An old man, stooped with age, leaned heavily on his walking stick. His hands trembled, his steps faltered, and the crowd rushed past him without a glance. Carriages rolled by, merchants shouted, children played, but no one stopped to notice the man's struggle to cross the street. Amina's heart stirred with compassion. She didn't think of her hunger, her bare feet, or her basket of flowers, she only thought of the fragile figure before her. "Grandfather," she called softly, running to his side, "let me help you." The old man turned, surprised. Most avoided him, some even laughed at his slow pace, but here was a poor little girl offering her tiny hands. He smiled faintly, and she grasped his wrinkled hand with both of hers, guiding him gently through the chaos of carts and horses. Step by step, she shielded him with her small frame, making sure he didn't stumble. Finally, they reached the other side, safe and sound. "Thank you, child," the old man said, his voice rough with age but warm. Not many stopped to help. Amina smiled shyly. "It's nothing, grandfather. I only hope someone helps my mother like this if she ever needs it." The old man studied her carefully. Her clothes spoke of hardship, her basket of flowers of desperate survival, yet her heart was filled with kindness. He placed a gentle hand on her head. "You are a good soul. Remember, kindness always returns in ways you cannot imagine." She nodded, waved goodbye, and returned to her spot in the market, thinking no more of the encounter. To her, it was a simple act of humanity. But to the old man, it was something far greater. What Amina did not know was that the man she helped was none other than Haji Karim, the town's wealthiest farmer. Owner of vast lands, herds of cattle, and sprawling orchards, his name was spoken with respect and awe. Yet despite his riches, he often walked the town in plain clothes, testing the hearts of people, watching how they treated those who seemed old and weak. Most ignored him, some mocked him, but that morning, a poor girl had touched his soul. Days passed. Amina's life continued with the same struggles. Her mother's cough grew worse, medicine was too costly, and the flowers she sold barely brought enough to eat. There were nights she went to bed hungry, clutching her mother's hand, whispering prayers into the darkness. Yet she never complained, never grew bitter. One afternoon, as she sat in her usual spot, she saw the same old man again. This time, he approached her slowly. "Child," he said, "are you still selling these flowers?" "Yes," Amina replied with a hopeful smile, though she knew few wanted her wilted blooms. "Would you like to buy some?" The man looked at her basket and then at her tired face. "I'll take them all." He placed coins in her hand, far more than the flowers were worth. Amina gasped. "But, grandfather, this is too much." He only smiled. "Sometimes, flowers are worth more than gold." After that day, he began visiting often. Sometimes he bought her flowers, sometimes he simply sat with her and talked. He asked about her mother, her dreams, her struggles. Slowly, Amina grew fond of his presence, seeing him as a guardian figure she never had. Then one morning, as she arrived at the market, she found a carriage waiting for her. The driver bowed and said, "Haji Karim requests your presence." Confused and nervous, she followed. The carriage carried her beyond the market, past the narrow streets she knew, until they reached vast fields of green stretching endlessly. It was like stepping into another world. There, under the shade of a great tree, stood the old man, not in ragged clothes, but in fine garments. Workers bowed to him, servants awaited his command. Amina's eyes widened in shock. "Grandfather, you are..." "Yes," he said gently, "I am Haji Karim. The lands you see, the orchards, the cattle, they belong to me." Amina's knees trembled. She bowed her head. "Forgive me, I didn't know." He lifted her chin with a kind hand. "Child, never lower yourself for showing kindness. You helped me when no one else did, not because of who I am, but because of who you are." With that, he made a decision that would change her life forever. He gave her mother the best doctors, medicines, and care. He gave Amina an education, a home, and a future. But more than wealth, He gave her dignity and love, treating her like his own granddaughter. Years later, Amina grew into a graceful young woman, educated and wise. She often stood beside Haji Karim, helping him manage the lands. People in the town, who once overlooked the barefoot flower girl, now saw her as a beacon of hope and kindness. She never forgot the days of hunger and struggle, and she used her new blessings to help others, orphans, widows, the poor, always remembering that one simple act of compassion had opened the doors of destiny. And so, the story spread through the town, how a poor girl helped an old man cross the street, unaware he was the richest farmer. But the true wealth was not in money or land, it was in kindness, the seed that grew into a harvest greater than anyone could measure. One inspiring message, one small act of kindness can transform not only another person's life but also your own. What you give from the heart always finds its way back to you, multiplied in ways you never expect. Would you like me to also break this story into scene-based segments with cliffhangers, perfect for YouTube pacing, so each part keeps the audience hooked until the end?